Have you ever been fooled by someone who you thought was really trustworthy, totally stable and reliable, and then they turned out actually to be very narcissistic in their behavior, to be drama kings and queens with all sorts of constant crises and emergencies, and turned out to use the information that you trusted them with against you, using you, seducing you, turning on you, and becoming extraordinarily cutting and critical, and then discarding you. How can you keep safe? And that's our topic today on narcissistic relationships. How can you keep yourself safe and see the red flags right away when someone may not be as trustworthy as you would like them to be, and as you wish they could be, and maybe even they wish they could be and don't know how in their lives? This is a very powerful topic, of course, and one that I've been asked about so many times in my over 30 years now as an intuitive, as a life and relationship coach, and a love mentor, because so many people with all the best intentions and all the loving hearts and goodness have sometimes found themselves to be naive enough to be persuaded. And again, it can happen to anybody, because narcissists have learned early on in their lives, usually from family members who were very persuasive themselves, often very frightening, often neglectful, sometimes quite harmful, critical, abusive even. They've learned how to convince, because they had to mollify their family or their primary caregivers who were giving them a hard time. By the way, it doesn't always have to be primary caregivers. They may have had teachers or clergy who abused them in some way, abused their power and authority. They may have had close family friends, extended family, who behaved in ways that caused harm, that destroyed or created a situation where the secure attachment bond that needs to happen in a baby, in a child, a toddler, never could really safely occur. So as always, I hope you're hearing that I am not trying to put anybody down. I'm not denigrating anybody's inherent worth or value. I'm simply trying to share information with you after my many years of working with people, which would tend to indicate that many, many of you, and I know this also from the many emails I receive every single day now, from literally all over America, Canada, Europe, sometimes in Australia and New Zealand, you're having a hard time with situations where you thought the person was who they claimed to be, only to find out that they're not. They may, for example, have claimed that they were financially very stable and solvent, that they were actually perhaps even wealthy. They may be showing up in a car that they claim is theirs, and it isn't. It's leased or it's borrowed. They may be living in a home that's very opulent and spacious, and they claim it's theirs, and it isn't. It actually belongs to some family member who's away and they're renting it, but the impression is made on the prospective victim. And again, I hate the word victim because my work and my whole life is partly a mission to help people become more empowered in their lives, to find their divine purpose and their direction, and to live from that place of enlightenment. So I don't like the word victim, and yet it fits. Because if someone has persuaded you that they're exactly who you want them to be, and then it turns out that they aren't, it's often so hard to forgive yourself if you realize that with a little bit more due diligence, if you've been able to take a little bit more time, slow it down, and just really get to know them and let there be a divine flow to the whole thing, rather than allowing them to love bomb you and totally take away all the marvelously good common sense that you have, and you probably develop beautifully in every other area of your life, it's hard to let that go sometimes. I've seen the suffering in my clients. I've seen it in friends and family. I have experienced it more than once, excuse me, in my own personal life. So I'm not judging you. I'm not judging them. I'm simply saying, here are situations, and I'm giving you ideas about how you can protect yourself, because you don't want to be anybody's victim. What I believe you all want, what I believe we all really want, is to love and be loved in a healthy way, to be seen, to be accepted, to be recognized for our own inherent goodness and beauty, and to live a life that has meaning. And in doing all of that, we feel safe. And when you're dealing with somebody who's fairly far along or very far along on the narcissistic spectrum of behavior, you're not going to have someone who can cooperate with you and meet you on that common ground. They're not there yet in their consciousness. They are not there yet in their evolution. So you then have to take the responsibility to look from moment one and get a sense of where this person is coming from by checking in with yourself, by asking your body. For example, action plan number 1 for today, golden nugget I like to call them. Does this person seem for real? What is their energy like? Golden nugget number 2, the stories that they talk about, are they for real? When they tell me something that occurred, does it feel congruent with what else they're saying and how they're living? Have I taken the time, next golden nugget, to really see this person in enough situations so that I know when he tells me he's got a great job and marvelous prospects, he really does? Because one of the things that narcissists love to do in that phase where they're luring you in, they've thrown the fishing pole out and they've got the worm on the hook and they've got you hooked and you're the fish and they're reeling you in, they want you to believe, as they want to believe about themselves. And sometimes it's true, but sometimes not so much. They want you to believe that they are just having the best time in their lives and nothing's wrong and nothing's ever been wrong, or the opposite, that they're victims of everybody else. Nobody's ever really gotten them. Nobody's understood them like you do. That's another red flag, by the way. And you're just the greatest thing that ever happened in their lives, and they want to keep reeling you in to the point where they want, sometimes after a week or two, sometimes after a month or two, for you to make a major commitment to them. Not to see anybody else, no dating anybody else, no connecting online or any other place, and claiming very often that they're going to do the same, and they often don't, because again, the terror of possible abandonment hits them, and then they want to line up possible battery chargers who will give them the attention, the affection, the adulation that they crave. Remember again, next golden nugget, you're dealing with somebody who will say virtually anything to get their needs for approval and outer validation met. And if you happen to be the person who they're in that phase with, they literally will say anything, will charm you, will disarm you with their poetic, romantic notions and promises. And so what may seem like a fabulous dream come true of romance and the knight in shining armor often turns out to have a whole lot of rust on it. I don't want you to get caught in that. Too many of you are getting caught in situations or realizing, some of the emails have been from people who have been in relationships for 20, 30, 40 years sometimes, have children with this person, only to realize that they did not know what narcissism was. And hopefully these videos, and many of my colleagues also who have wonderful videos on the topic as well. They just didn't know what they were dealing with. Many of you grew up in families where there was so much verbal abuse, so much benign neglect, so much pain and sorrow and active addiction of one sort or another, that you grew up believing that this kind of behavior from your partner was to be expected because that's what you knew. It doesn't have to be that way. So one of the things I will ask you to do in not becoming prey to someone who's going to try and win your trust, want to have you lend them money, want to have them invest in a business dealing that you may know very little about, but that they are touting as the next thing that's going to make them a multi-zillionaire and maybe you with them. Check it out. Do your due diligence. Have an independent opinion of someone who's very savvy in business and can be totally objective. Because pillow talk can be a disaster for your bank account. Do not let them have any of your information of a financial nature from your bank account, your checking account, your savings, your credit card number, your Roth IRA, or whatever other pension stuff you have potentially. And the other thing, of course, is no personal information about anybody else in your family. And if they ask and they're pushing you on this and saying, oh, if you really love me, you'd trust me, just say, you know, love has nothing to do with this. I believe in boundaries. This is a boundary that I'm going to keep. I haven't known you that long, or whatever it is that feels right to you. You know what to say. You all are very articulate, wise, marvelously developed people out there. And again, this can happen to anybody because most people want to believe that people are good-hearted as they are. Most people want to believe that when somebody says they're going to do something, you can trust them to follow through reliably. And it makes us feel unsafe sometimes when we have to acknowledge that we may be dealing with somebody who's very needy, who wants something from us rather than just wanting us for ourselves. And it feels hurtful and disappointing. And so we all have a certain level of vulnerability depending on what's going on or has been going on in our lives, or what fears we may have. There are people out there who are terribly afraid of being alone. Narcissists are often in that category because they hate being single. They want somebody in their immediate household, or certainly in their immediate sexual arena, who's going to give them the battery charge on a very, very dependable and reliable basis, and in an abundant way, not just a little. So I hope these golden nuggets will help you to make an informed choice, an informed decision. If you've been in a relationship with someone who you're starting to realize you cannot trust, they're maybe not showing up when they say they will anymore, they are flirting openly with other people, they've stayed online and are having flirtations, are addicted to flirtation, which I've done another video about. I hope if you haven't already, you'll subscribe to the channel, Beverly Banov Brown MS, so that you'll know when new videos show up, or you can check out other topics that I've done on inner peace now, radical gratitude, joyful marriage, authentic dating, etc. Until next time, take good care and be good to yourself. You deserve it. Bye.